Okay, so this is gonna be the after action review of the trip that me and my buddy went on last week. It was the 3 days, 47-mile trip. The name of the trail that we went on was called the Swamp Fox Passage, and it's part of the Palmetto Trail that cuts through the state of South Carolina. After looking back at some of the data of tracking our distance and stuff, we found out that it ended up being about 48 miles that we went. The passage is listed as being 46 miles and some change, but ended up being 48 miles for us. So 46, 48 miles, somewhere in that neighborhood. We did it over the course of 3 days. This time of year for our area is really, the weather's about perfect. I wrote down quite a few notes, so excuse me for looking down at this, but some of this stuff I knew I would not remember. But I want to start off with telling you the weather, because that kind of plays into a part of some of the stuff that I want to go over. So temperature range for the 3 days, the highs were anywhere from 70 to 75. The humidity was very low. The lows at night were anywhere from about 50, 55 to 60. I think the first night is when it was the coolest, and I believe that was about 50 degrees. The second night it ended up being about 60, somewhere in that neighborhood. So originally, when we first started out, the weather was forecasting for rain on the second day. Ended up being no rain, so that kind of worked out great for us. I think the way I'm gonna do this video is I'm just gonna go straight through my list of notes. I've got about 2 pages worth. Usually every trip I go on, whether it be an overnight or a couple days, I try to write down notes so that I can remember them, because there's no way I can remember some of this shit. All right, so on the first day we did 18 miles, and that's where we made camp at, mile 18. The second day we ended up doing 16 miles. We camped at somewhere around mile 34, 35, somewhere along in there. Day 3 was the last day. We finished up. It was about 13 miles. So looking at my notes, one of the first things I wrote down, and I'm gonna go, you'll see it in the next video of the everything that I carried in my pack itself. But I carried my Esbit cook pot, and you saw it in the videos of the trail itself when we were out there. But I carried my Esbit cook pot, and I also carried a canteen cup with stove. So looking back now, due to most of my meals being dehydrated meals, or meals that I didn't really have to do a lot of cooking with, it was just simple add water type stuff, I could have cut the Esbit cook pot. The canteen stove and cup with the Esbit cubes would have been perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, that was how I heated up my coffee for the third and final day, and it worked just fine. So I think if I'm going to be carrying dehydrated meals or just add water type meals, that's probably the route I'm going to start going now, is just carrying just a canteen cup, unless it's dead of winter or it's going to be really, really cold out and I'm going to want a lot of hot liquids. So one thing we figured up was our calorie intake, as well as the calories we brought in the food. So food wise, I brought around 9,000 calories for the 3 days. That seems like a lot, but you have to also remember that you have your basal metabolic rate, which is your normal, how much calories it takes for your body to maintain the weight that is in, as if you did nothing more than sit there. So between that, as well as the calories burning from walking, we probably burned roughly, again, this is a rough estimate, my guess is about 5,000 calories a day. And again, I brought about 9,000 calories worth for 3 days. So divided up, that's about 3,000 a day. I will tell you that I did not get hungry with the food that I brought. I was at no point starving or felt like I did not have enough food. So I did good on that part. I carried peanut butter, specifically Jif natural peanut butter with honey added to it. That's a great way to go. Sorry, it's very windy today. If you've ever, at least, well, when I was little, we would eat spoonfuls of peanut butter as a snack. I mean, maybe that's just our down south thing, I don't know. But I like peanut butter, so It kind of worked hand in hand. And the other thing is, it's just so calorie dense that it just worked out really, really good. I believe I brought a 1 pound jar of it. The other thing was having plenty of moleskin as well as ibuprofen. I think I took ibuprofen once, maybe twice, on the trip. A buddy of mine, he ended up hurting his foot about mile 12, so he needed that ibuprofen a little more than I did. He didn't have any, and he was pretty happy that I had some. I had plenty of moleskin. Sorry, that's my truck door. I got the camera setting up in the truck to block some of the wind. But I had plenty of moleskin with me. That came in really handy because I ended up getting blisters on my pinky toes, of all places. Other than that, I had no other problems with blisters. But as soon as I started feeling those spots develop, I went ahead and applied the moleskin and really never had too much of an issue. Again, that, 48 miles, that's a long distance. You're going to end up having to take care of your feet. I mean, you have to for that kind of distance. So one thing that I was not expecting was how bad ticks were going to be. So my area where I'm at, I don't live far from there. But I've never in my entire life of hunting, fishing, spending it all this time outdoors since I was a kid, have ever experienced ticks as bad as they were. They were so bad the first day. The first day was the worst day. They were so bad that I was constantly picking them off. I probably picked off over a dozen of my legs within a couple hours. I know some places ticks are a normal occurrence and normally are bad always. Where I'm at, it's usually not that big a deal. So what I ended up having to do was ended up getting some ticks around my waistline. So the first day I tucked my shirt in. After that, I tucked it in the second day, as well as I think the third day I did not have it tucked in. But tucking it in eliminated me getting any ticks around my waistline. I never had a problem there after that. One thing I did do was I pulled my pants leg up and I sprayed Picardian bug spray on my calves, and that pretty well helped, eliminating them getting on my skin. They still got on my pants leg, but they did not get on my skin anymore after that once I applied it there, at least not that I can remember. Another thing with ticks, I carried a tarp. I had a bug net as well, and I believe if I was going to be constantly operating or hiking, camping, whatever in that kind of environment, a hammock or a tent would have been the way to go. I didn't bring one. I have both, but I just didn't bring one. I ended up not having ticks, at night. But if I was going to be in that environment constantly, I would definitely probably want a tent or a hammock. The next thing I want to talk about boots. So the boots I wore were these boots right here. These are Redhead RCT boots. They're like $110 at Bass Pro Shops. I bought them about a year ago, just kind of as a stopgap solution until I got something better. They're actually not bad boots. I've had them for going on a year now, and they did the whole trip. And didn't really have too much of an issue. They are hot weather boot, not waterproof, and they breathe just fine, especially with good wool socks. Let's see. The only issue that I ended up running into was on the third day, my feet were really kind of starting to feel the distance. We ended up going to a section of the trail that was about a mile long, give or take, of nothing but constantly walking on roots and rocks. And these boots, the sole on them is very cushiony and very comfortable, but the very bottom sole of it is really kind of soft and did not provide a lot of protection from that kind of stuff. I mean, and it could be just with the fact that by the third day we've done 40 some miles, so your feet's gonna be a little tender at that point anyway. So that could have something to do with it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm going to upgrade to a boot with a little bit of a stiffer sole, and maybe see how that works out in that kind of environment. So I did not, and this is completely my mistake and my own stupidity. I had a Sawyer filter, but I did not bring the syringe. By the third day, my Sawyer filter was starting to go to a trickle. If we were out there 4 or 5 days and I did not have that syringe, I'd have been hurting. I would probably not have been able to use it. So I've added a small syringe, I think the Sawyer comes with like a 50cc syringe. I added a 10cc syringe. So that was my stupidity on that. Go figure. Sometimes you have those stupid moments, and that was one of those stupid moments where I thought I wasn't going to need it, and I should have known better. So about mile marker 25, I began having chafing in my groin area. I've never ever had an issue with chafing between my legs in the past. Then again, I've never gone this distance either. Having plenty of Gold Bond was absolutely huge. It was killer for me. I mean, it absolutely saved my balls. As soon as I started feeling any kind of chafing between my legs, I immediately applied the Gold Bond. Did not have an issue after that. Mile marker 25 was the second day. Third day, what I did was when I got up in the morning, I changed underwear and I got ready. I applied the Gold Bond first thing and did not have an issue the third day at all. So after I started applying it, I was good to go. The other thing the Gold Bond helped with, obviously I put it on my feet. You can see it in the past videos, and I've talked about using Gold Bond on your feet as well in the past. But the other thing I noticed with the Gold Bond is it really kept any kind of odor and funk down. I did not smell like I had swamp ass, or like my balls had been in ball soup for a couple days, and my feet didn't stink. So that was a plus, and I was pretty happy about that, especially once I got home. I carried a small pack of wet wipes, like an 18 pack, which was enough for 3 days. It ended up being enough, but if I was out there for 4 days, it would not have been enough. Or if I was having stomach issues, diarrhea, for example, or anything like that, or if I'd have got a lot more dirtier and grimier, that small pack was not going to work. I have since added a larger pack to my my bag, so that's a little food for thought. Always carry a big pack. Don't skimp on that, unless it's for just like a small little day hike. That's a little different. So I've showed in previous videos of my Thermarest inflating mat and the blow-up pillow I carry. Take it from somebody who has had plenty of 48-hour shifts at work with little to no sleep at all, plenty of 24-hour shifts with no sleep at all. You do not need to underestimate a good night's sleep. Having that inflatable mat as well as that pillow makes for getting a really good night's rest, and I'm a firm believer in both of them. Just be a little protective of them, and it should last you a good long while. I've had mine going on for quite a while now, 6-8 months, something like that maybe, and I've had no issues. But you need a good night's sleep, and if you can have that little bit extra comfort to get that good night's sleep, I highly recommend you do it. I definitely recommend the Thermarest Trail Scout, I believe is the name of it, blow-up mattress, as well as the Trekology inflatable pillow. They're not very expensive and well worth it. So, the door keeps trying to blow shut. Poncho liner was my sleep system. It worked great. You know, I've slept in it down to about 45 with the Vortex Bivy and some good base layers. So I was very well covered with that. The gravity filter bag I had, definitely I liked having that, especially once we got to camp on the first night and I was able to go to a water source which is about 100 to 150 yards away from camp. I was able to gather up 3 gallons, come back to camp, filter it, and be good to go for the next morning. That's definitely going to be a mainstay in my kit, I believe, from now on. That's the first time I've ever messed with one, and I really liked having that. It's just saved a lot of time. So the Sawyer filter I had, going along with the syringe and all of that, I had a Sawyer Mini, and with the Mini comes with a little 16-ounce squeeze bag. Well, I've got a bunch of 32-ounce squeeze bags at home, And if you're going to be filtering a lot of water and you're going to be moving a lot of distance, I definitely would recommend going with the 32 ounce bag over the 16 ounce bag. I was able to do it with a 16 ounce bag, but it was just a pain in the ass to have to constantly refill that 16 ounce bag. So I think, I've already done it. I've added a 16 ounce or 32 ounce bag to my pack now. And I'm going to take, and I'm going to add probably 2 more 32 ounce bags and just leave them in there, just as a way to carry extra water if need be. That's kind of, for the most part, it. Mosquitoes ended up not being too terribly bad, so not much to talk on that. The last note I have in here was I had Mountain House meals for breakfast and for supper at night. You know, if you've ever used Mountain House meals, you know they come in a pretty big package. What I ended up doing, my dog is behind the camera. Do not knock the camera over. Sit down. Sit. Good girl. So what I ended up doing was taking them and putting them in Ziploc bags and just wrote the amount of water on it, and I just poured the hot water in there, and that worked fine. What I'm probably going to do next time is I've got a vacuum sealer. I'm going to take the meals and I'm going to vacuum seal them. And basically, it's just going to save, mostly just to save space. That's kind of the big reason for that. I'm going to do that next time and give that a try. And plus, they'll last forever that way too. Something else that just popped into my head that I did not write down was, so with the food I brought a pack of 10 tortilla shells, a 1 pound jar of peanut butter, 4 Mountain House meals, 2 granola bars, 2 packs of crackers per day. So a total of, I believe it was 6 of those. So a total of 3 granola bars, 3 packs of crackers, and a couple packs, or quite a few packs of like liquid IV and stuff, and a pack of gummy bears as well. So one thing I noticed was I was not hungry, but when I would eat the Mountain House meals, when I ate peanut butter, that filled me up. It's always been that way for me, fortunately. But when I ate the Mountain House meals, it would satisfy my hunger, but it was not make me feel very full. I've got some experiments that I'm going to do with that to try to alleviate that, and I've got some ideas that I'm going to try and work with that. I'll kind of do a video on that once I get to that point. This video's been 18 minutes, so that's really all I'm going to ramble on about. I'm going to do a video going over what I carried in my pack. That's going to be a separate video from this because I figured this was going to be a long one. So if you have any questions and you want to know anything else, just ask and I'll do my best to answer them. Other than that, that's all I've got to say on this AAR.